Everyone loves showing revenue screenshots. You'll see people say, I made $10,000 this month on Etsy. Like, cool, bro. But they don't tell you how much they actually made and what they actually took home because they just show revenue, not profit. So in this video, I'm gonna be breaking down the exact numbers from January through August of 2025. And I'll show you my revenue, how many orders I had, what I paid in Etsy fees, and what I actually profited. By the end of this, you'll see that revenue is not profit. And if you take anything away from this video, remember, revenue is not profit. So with that being said, let's get on with the video. So in January, my shop had about 15,000 visits, 383 orders, and a 2.5% conversion rate, and I made about $7,800, right? So that's revenue. That is not profit, and this is what people don't talk about. They do not talk about Etsy fees, and also if you're running ads. So on that $7,800, Etsy took about $508 in transaction fees, plus about $234 in processing fees. That's a 3% cut, plus 25 cents per order. So my actual profit after fees in January was closer to about $7,000. The reason it was so strong was because two products I launched early in the month completely took off and carried me. This was the start of my best quarter of the year, to be honest. Now let's go into February. So February had some traffic. We had about another 15.4 thousand visits, but fewer sales with 252 orders with $6,800 in revenue. Etsy took about $446 in transaction fees and $192 in processing fees. So my real take home after fees was about $6,235. The only real big thing that changed this month was my conversion rate, and it dropped to 1.6% because I just wasn't posting new listings. And I thought those January products would carry me forever, but spoiler alert, they really did not. The ultimate lesson that I have from February is that Etsy needs fresh products, and if you're not feeding the algorithm, your numbers are probably gonna dip. Now let's get into March. So March was honestly my breakout month. I had 15.9 thousand visits, almost 16,000 visits, 307 orders, and brought in $8,468.37 in revenue. That number sounds like a dream. All right, so close to 10K, but you know what? Etsy fees, they do love to have their part. So around $550 was in transaction fees, plus $221 in processing fees, which left me with about $7,609. This month was huge because those two January products were still selling daily and had made so much momentum. I would attribute this because those January products that were doing really well in January started to pick back up in March, and they became bestsellers actually. So I had two bestsellers in my shop at the time, and my conversion rate even went up from 1.6% to about 1.9%. It was so close to 2%. Another thing I wanted to note for this month is there's a significant revenue increase because I increased the bottom line of my products that month. All of my products I increased about like 20%, I want to say, and I was so scared to do this for the longest time because I didn't know if it would sell. I think a lot of Etsy sellers get caught up in that. They don't know if they can raise their products because they're afraid of the what if factor. My thing is, if you know you have a good product and a product that people want, people will pay the extra $3 or $4 for that product because they can't get it anywhere else. So just raise the price for maybe a week or two, see if you still get the same traction, and if not, just take it back down. All that to say, this is just a lesson to you to raise your prices when you feel like the timing is right. In April, I felt like things kind of dropped down a little bit. I had about 13.8 thousand visits, 221 orders, and made $5,891 in revenue. Etsy fees came out to about $383 in transaction fees and $171 in processing fees, which left me with about $5,338 after fees. And the reason I dipped is, once again, I stopped uploading. I was so busy with my 9-to-5 job, and this was around the time that I was trying to get my TikTok monetized, which I did, by the way. This was just kind of another reason that solidified that if you're not posting on the platform, your shop will take a plateau. Just in my case, that's what happened with me. I know some shops just keep that $8,000 mark year round, but that was not the case in my shop. So lesson for me in April was that plateaus are not random. They really just happen when you stop feeding the algorithm. So May was another slow one. We had 12.9 thousand visits, 211 orders, and made about $5,330 in revenue. Etsy, yet again, took her sweet slice, about $346 in transaction fees and $162 in processing fees. So my real take home was about $4,822. This was just another month where I was distracted with social media instead of uploading products, and the shop just kind of coasted on easy mode and it didn't grow. So this is kind of twofold for me because yes, it was so nice not having to post anything. I barely logged into Canva that month other than just to maybe do some, monthly maintenance. I really was just a customer service agent in my shop at that point. Like none of that money was money that I was actively working for. It was all passive because at this time I was heavy posting on TikTok, heavy editing videos, heavy doing everything I could to get that income stream up and going that I just kind of neglected my Etsy income stream. But the cool thing is I still got paid a lump sum of money for literally doing nothing. But then on the flip side of that is that yet again, that income stream that was being neglected did kind of fall short a little bit. The lesson from May is that social media is great, obviously, and you can make so much money with social media, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket because you don't want to neglect an income stream just because you're so focused on trying to open up another one. So now let's get into June. Oh man. You see we're just going on a downward trend here with 10,000 visits, 174 orders, and $4,000 in revenue. And you know Etsy, she likes to kick you when you're down. So she took $263 in transaction fees, $130 in processing fees, leaving me with about $3,655. In summer, it's naturally slower on Etsy, but the real reason I dipped was because I just really wasn't posting. And when you're not active, Etsy's not gonna reward you. So my lesson for June is consistency really is everything. And if you're not uploading, don't expect the platform to keep pushing your products out there. Guys, now let's get into July. So July was honestly my lowest month yet, and I hope it's the lowest that it stays for this year. I had about 8,000 visits and 141 orders with a total revenue of $3,341 in revenue, guys. And what stings so bad is the fact that I was making more than that a few months ago in profit. So that's kind of like a slap in the face, you know, it kind of sucks. I'm so grateful to even be making that much money in revenue because I know other shops have never even seen $1,000 in revenue. But as someone who's made almost $9,000 in revenue, it sucks to see my shop go to literally a third of what it was making at a point in time. So, you know, that's a part of business. You know, you're gonna have your ups and your downs, but you have to be prepared for whatever is thrown at you. So let's get into Etsy fees. So Etsy took about $217 in transaction fees and $111 in processing fees, which left me with about $3,000. Now, this wasn't a big month for me at all, but it honestly was a mindset shift, if anything. I knew I needed to start preparing new listings for fall and Q4, and I knew that if I didn't do something quick, my shop was gonna really just start to die. So my lesson for July is that you can't just hope things bounce back, you have to actively change your strategy. Now going into last month, which is August. August was my rebound month. I had about 8,925 visits, 189 orders, and I made about $4,696 in revenue. So Etsy fees were about $305 in transaction fees and $144 in processing fees, leaving me with about $4,248. The reason was I started uploading again and my conversion rate jumped to 2.1%, which shows Etsy rewards activity. Or maybe honestly, I just had way better products, who knows? But my lesson from August is momentum is everything and you have to capitalize on it. Stop posting, your shop slows down. Start again, your sales will bounce back. So let's get the full scope in here. Let's get ads involved, right? Because ads, she loves to be greedy, doesn't she? So from January through August, my Etsy shop in total made about $46,474 in revenue. But after Etsy fees, my actual take home was closer to $41,590, which that's a salary, right? Like that is a salary. Wrong, no, my good friend. Let's go into what I actually took home since Etsy ads decided to take her cut. From January through August, I spent $19,637 on Etsy ads. So subtract that. So my real profit, what I actually pocketed, was about $21,953 this year. So that is quite the difference from $46,000 to $21,000 in actual take-home profit. Now, if you divide $21,000 up by 8 months, it's about $2,600 a month, which is still a great income. It pays for rent, it pays a car payment, it goes into savings, it goes into a Roth IRA. Like you can do stuff with that, you know, but it is not a full-time income to where I can move across the world and travel in Bali for months and months. You know what I'm saying? Like it does pay for stuff. And honestly, it is a lump sum of income, but it's not what I'd like my shop to be at. And I think if you're an entrepreneur like me, which I know you are, I know the ultimate goal is for you to be able to never have to check your bank account because that stress is not there. But over time, I think you and I both know that we can really get our shops to where it needs to be, to where we never have to check our bank account. So yeah, although the revenue screenshots do look nice, you have to understand the real numbers and that Etsy is a business. There are gonna be fees, there are gonna be ads, and every month is not gonna be consistent, and the algorithm might not push you sometimes. But here's the good news, all right? If you stay consistent and keep feeding your shop, eventually you will see numbers and you will see results and you will be absolutely profitable. But all that to say, I hope you're your shop is going well, and I hope if you haven't started a shop, this inspires you to start one. But I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.